The story begins at an airport, where we see a pilot named Brad. He's quickly heading towards the plane while simultaneously talking to his daughter on a video call. His daughter says, "I saw the news this morning. It said the weather in the area you're going to is very bad, causing many other flights to be cancelled. So you should cancel your flight and return home." Brad smiles and replies, "I've flown safely in such weather many times before, so don't worry, I'll be back soon." Hearing this, his daughter is delighted and hangs up. Brad then enters the cabin and meets the co-pilot. The co-pilot was a little nervous because it was his first time flying. Just then, an air hostess comes and calls Brad out. A police officer tells Brad that due to an emergency, he must escort a murderer named Tony. Tony is a powerful and dangerous man accused of murder and will now be transported to another country by plane and imprisoned for life. The officer tells Brad that he is entrusting him with this responsibility because he is a capable and intelligent pilot. Brad agrees and places Tony in the last seats to avoid any inconvenience to the other passengers. All passengers then take their seats, and Brad approaches the plane's staff to confirm that all passengers have arrived. The plane then takes off. After reaching altitude, Brad puts the plane on autopilot and begins talking to the pilot about his family. Brad shows the pilot a photo of his daughter on his mobile phone and says, "I love my daughter very much and that we have no one else in this world except each other." Meanwhile, the passengers on the plane are enjoying the journey, but they had no idea that something terrible was about to happen to them. The two pilots in the cabin were happy and the plane was flying normally. But suddenly the weather turned bad and the plane began to tremble slightly. This worried Brad, who felt unwell. He announced to all passengers to fasten their seatbelts and tried to contact the control tower via radio. But he couldn't because all the radios had stopped working due to the bad weather. Suddenly, a powerful electric shock struck the plane, causing it to jolt violently. Brad leaves the cabin to check on the passengers. Seeing them, Brad feels a little relieved, knowing they were all safe. But then, as the lights slowly dimmed, the plane experienced several more jolts, causing Brad's head to hit the ceiling and fall, injuring his forehead. Seeing this situation, the condition of all the passengers began to deteriorate. Brad quickly returned to the cabin and, along with his partner, began managing the plane. It was a difficult time for them. Due to the bad weather, they couldn't see anything ahead. Brad said, "We have to bring the plane down because another jolt could destroy it." They immediately began lowering the plane's altitude, and the plane began to rapidly descend. The passengers inside were terrified. Just then, the police officer accompanying criminal Tony drops his mobile phone. He unbuckles his seatbelt to pick it up. An air hostess also unbuckles her seatbelt to help. The plane is now descending rapidly, causing them to crash into the ceiling with such force that they are instantly killed. The plane descends to a much lower altitude, and the two pilots manage to regain control. However, the plane lacks power, preventing Brad from reaching the airport. Brad decides to crash land the plane in the ocean, but then they spot an island in the distance. Brad then directs the plane toward the island and decides to land there. After many difficulties, Brad finally makes an emergency landing on a road on the island. Luckily, all passengers are safe and unharmed in this emergency landing. Then a short circuit occurs at the rear of the plane, which makes Brad happy because there was still some power left in the plane. After all the passengers disembark, an air hostess informs Captain Brad that the police officer escorting criminal Tony has been killed, and an air hostess has also been killed. Hearing this, Brad becomes deeply disheartened. Meanwhile, the owner of the airline company sees that his A-plane has suddenly disappeared. Because he didn't see it land and because the radio was out of order, he hadn't been able to contact the pilot for a long time. So the airline owner calls in a rescue expert named Scarsdale, who works to find people stranded somewhere. The airline owner tells him, "I need all the details about my planes, like where did it go, where are all the workers and passengers." The rescue expert then gets to work. Meanwhile, all the passengers are wondering why they landed here. Brad gathers them all and explains, "We had to land here because of an emergency. There's still some power left on the plane, and we'll fix the rest. Until then, please stay here comfortably, and don't panic, we'll be leaving soon." Brad then approaches the plane and begins repairing it. But he sees that the plane's power is very low, so they have to wait for help. They pull out a map and begin to map their own location to find out where they are. The pilot tells Brad's companion, looking at the map, that they are stranded on a private island. This place is very dangerous. There are people here who do not listen to any government. If these people catch us, our lives could be in danger, and even our government will not be able to save us. Hearing this, Brad says that now, no matter what, we must call our rescue team here so that they can come and save us all because this is the only way out. After which, the two of them begin repairing the radio to summon help, but the radio has been completely damaged by lightning. Brad then comes to all the passengers and tells them that the radio is out of order due to some fault. But don't worry, he reassures them, "We'll go to the other side of the island and find the radio, inform the control tower of our location, and ask them to send a rescue team there who will come and rescue everyone. Here, Brad takes a bold step. He declares that Tony will go with him. With this, he unlocks Tony's handcuffs. Brad then tells the co-pilot to get to work repairing the ship's power supply. I'll try to get a rescue team here soon through any contact I can. Tony and Brad then head into the jungle to find the radio. On the way, Tony thanks Brad for trusting him. We now see the terrorist group living on the island. A man runs up to them and tells the group leader that a plane has landed on the island due to an emergency, carrying many people from different countries. Upon hearing this, the group leader gives the man some money and tells his team to get ready. Brad and Tony are moving through the island's jungle. Tony asks Brad why he freed him and where are he taking him now. Brad tells him it's because he can't put everyone in danger because of him, and that there's a dangerous terrorist group that he and I have to face. Tony then tells Brad that he has a military background and has served in the US military for many years. Shortly, Tony's voice from behind stops. When Brad looks back, Tony is gone. He had escaped Brad's clutches and now sets off alone into the forest. While venturing further into the forest, Brad goes to an abandoned factory where he finds a telephone. However, it's an old, broken telephone. He then begins connecting the wires to the telephone and the telephone starts working. He quickly calls the company's helpline. He tells the helpline his location and everything else. However, due to a problem with the line, his voice isn't reaching the person on the other end properly. Consequently, the helpline disconnects Brad's call. Then Brad gets an idea. He calls his daughter and asks her to write down his location and everything else on a piece of paper and deliver it to his office. During the conversation, a man comes from behind and attacks Brad, but Brad manages to overpower him with great difficulty and beats him unconscious. Just then, Brad senses another man entering the room. He quickly hides, but the man is none other than Tony, who had killed several thugs and taken their weapons. He calls out to Brad, "Don't be afraid, come out." When Brad emerges, Tony hands him a gun for protection. Then when they both reach the factory's ground floor, they find a camera. From the camera's recording and the passports lying there, they learn that the island's inhabitants are living on the island. Terrorists kidnap people and demand large sums of money from their families. Even when they receive money from the kidnapped person's family, they kill them instead of releasing them. Seeing this, Brad realizes that their passengers are also in danger. The two exit the vehicle and spot a car. This car belonged to the terrorist who was killed by Brad moments ago. They then get into the car parked outside and begin to approach their passengers. Meanwhile, all the passengers are waiting for Brad, hoping that he will bring them help. Then they hear the sound of a car. Hearing the car, they are overjoyed and assume that Brad has called a rescue team. But it wasn't a rescue team, but rather terrorists living on the island. They start firing bullets, scaring all the passengers. Brad and Tony also heard the gunfire. They speed up their car and try to reach the plane quickly. The leader of the terrorist group asks the air hostess for a list of all the passengers. Terrified, the air hostess quickly gives him the list. Then, one of the gang members asks the pilot, "Where is your senior pilot?" The pilot tells him that he went into the jungle for some work and hasn't returned yet. Just then, Brad and Tony arrive, but they have been secretly watching them from a distance. Meanwhile, a woman tries to escape, but the men shoot and kill her. Seeing this, Brad goes to help them, but Tony stops him and tells him to stay calm. It's not right to leave now. The gang leader puts all the passengers on a bus and leaves two of his companions there, telling them to go and get whatever valuables are inside the plane. They then begin taking all the passengers to their base. After the gang leaves, Brad becomes angry at Tony, saying, "They took our passengers, but you didn't let me go." Tony explains, "There were too many of them. Even if you had left, you wouldn't have been able to fight such a large army alone." The two men then proceed towards the plane and capture the two thugs who were stealing valuables from the plane. Brad asks them at gunpoint, "Where did your leader take the passengers?" He tells them, "We have a base a little ways from here, and they must have gone there." Meanwhile, Brad's daughter gives the rescue expert a paper he wrote, containing the plane's location and all the information. The rescue expert uses satellites to locate the plane. They discover the plane is stranded on an island, and that a dangerous terrorist group is on the island. The rescue officer then calls the captain of his private army, explains the situation, and asks him to go to the island. The captain agrees, and with his companions loads a bag full of money and several bags of weapons into the car and prepares to head to the island. Meanwhile, Brad discovers that the pilot had repaired the plane's power system before the terrorists took it away, and Brad sees that the plane has regained power. He is overjoyed. Now Brad leaves a message written on his uniform for the arriving private army team and sets out with Tony to the location where the gang had taken all the plane passengers. Traversing the forest, they reach the terrorists' hideout, get out of the car, and sneak into the area where the gangsters were terrorizing the passengers and filming them, hoping to send the videos to their families and extort money from them. Meanwhile, a private team sent by the rescue experts also reaches the plane. When they find no one there, the team leader goes inside to check, where they discover the bodies of 2 people. These were the 2 men the gang leader had ordered to steal all the valuables from the plane, but Brad killed them both. The captain of the private team also receives a message left by Brad, which was the way to the terrorist gang's hideout. Tony and Brad were secretly monitoring the terrorists at their hideout, and as soon as they got the chance, they sneaked up from behind and killed 2 terrorists. Then they sneaked forward and reached a room where all the passengers were held captive. Brad wanted to free them, but there were too many guards guarding the room, and Brad didn't even have the key to unlock the door. After this, the 2 of them killed the guards one by one, and Tony even picked up a hammer and killed several of them. Here, Brad was taking the keys from the guard. He releases the passengers from the room. He tells them to quickly board the same bus the terrorists brought them on, and they all quickly board. Just then, Tony approaches Brad and tells him that there's only one way out, via vehicle, but there are several thugs standing there with guns drawn, who will open fire on them as soon as they see them. When Brad looks at the passengers, they are all terrified. Risking his own life, Brad makes a decision and tells Tony, "I'll distract the terrorists there, and you can take advantage of the opportunity and take all the passengers away." At first, Tony refuses, saying that doing so will kill them. But Brad says, "We have no other option." Hearing this, Tony agrees. Brad escapes and approaches the terrorists. There, Brad tells the gang leader that he has called for help. A rescue team will arrive soon. So let all the passengers leave. Hearing this, the gang members laugh and begin beating him. The gang leader says, "How can I let them go like this? I don't let anyone go without money." Just as they are about to kill Brad, a private rescue team arrives and attacks the terrorists. After a prolonged gunfight, they kill several members of the gang and rescue Brad. They take Brad onto the bus and leave. The gang leader sees that his younger brother has also been killed, along with many of his companions. Seeing this, he becomes extremely angry and swears that he will not spare even one of these people and will kill them all one by one. He then tells his team to quickly prepare. They will soon leave to kill them. On the bus, the captain of the private team tells everyone that they are just a small private team of 5 people who have come here on a mission to rescue them and that they are not a rescue team. The rescue team will take some time to arrive. Hearing this, Brad panics and says that they don't have time because the gang members will soon be after us and kill us as soon as they see us. But I have an idea. As soon as they reach the ship, Brad tells all the passengers that the power has returned to the ship. This means that the ship will start up now and we can leave immediately. So all of you, hurry and board the plane because we can't wait for the rescue team. They'll take time to arrive, and if we stay, we'll be killed by those terrorists. Hearing this, everyone boards the plane. While Brad is busy checking the plane thoroughly, the private team members are already prepared for the impending danger. Suddenly, the terrorist group arrives and attacks them. Seeing them, the private team tries to stop them, and there's a lot of gunfire from both sides. But this private team has very good guns, and because of this, they kill many of the goons. Brad quickly informs the private team leader that he's going to launch the plane in 5 minutes, and that you should all board the plane quickly. Brad then goes to Tony and thanks him for supporting him during such a difficult time. Brad, shielding himself from the bullets, enters the plane and sits in his cabin. He joins his partner, the pilot, in starting the plane. Meanwhile, Tony runs out of bullets. When he checks the private team's bag for bullets, he finds a bag full of money, but Tony, abandoning the money, takes out bullets from another bag and resumes fighting the terrorists. Meanwhile, Brad turns the plane to the right. The private team's soldiers begin boarding the plane one by one, with Tony providing cover fire. The radio also returns to working power. The owner of the plane company tells Brad that he will tell him a safe place to go. Everyone boards the plane, but Tony doesn't. He takes the bag full of money and runs away, fearing that if he returns to the plane with it, the police will arrest him again and put him in jail. The gang leader, seeing his comrades die, goes mad with rage. He plans to bring a rocket launcher in front of the plane and blow them all up in one go. But Tony sees him just in time. Tony quickly takes up his gun and shoots him dead, saving everyone's lives. Seeing this, Brad is overjoyed. He uses all his strength to manage to fly the plane. Tony, happy for all the passengers and Brad, takes the bag full of money and runs off into the jungle. Brad steers the ship away from the island, and the airline owner tells him about an airport they could go to, which was now very close to them. Brad takes the plane to the location indicated by the airline owner, but then the plane's engine catches fire again and the plane appears to be destroyed. So Brad activates the emergency warning again and slowly tries to bring the plane down to the runway. Finally, with great difficulty, Brad lands the plane on the runway, and everyone's lives are saved. Brad and his fellow co-pilot are overjoyed. Meanwhile, the airline owner and his team are also very happy. When Brad goes back to check on the passengers, he sees that they are all safe, and this brings him peace of mind. All the passengers standing there start clapping and thanking him. Shortly after, a rescue team arrives, delighting all the passengers. Brad sends all the passengers off with the rescue team, and the captain finally breathes a sigh of relief as he sits on the ship's stairs and calls his daughter. The story ends with this. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to our channel and like it.